When I read your file and saw childhood trauma as well as BPD, that was a bit of a red flag. This is what the clinical psychologist who ended up diagnosing me with autism at the age of 46 said to me. She told me that it only took her about 15 minutes to tell that I was autistic when we first met. And yet all of this was by accident. I've seen plenty of psychologists, psychiatrists, doctors in my time, and not one of them remotely saw autism. Is that because none of them know what autism is? Do they not know anything about it? Well, I dare say they do know something about it, but I'm willing to bet money that none of them were autistic, except for the person who diagnosed me. Pretty confident in saying that, actually. Yes, I don't know it to be a fact, but that's my that's my hypothesis. And yet a doctor that I had for 15 years knows me very well. When we received the letter that said autism level 1, his jaw dropped. He was really shocked that someone he knew so well could have something and he didn't know. And I felt bad for him because I didn't see that as neglect on his part at all. In fact, I don't really hold it against any of the people that didn't diagnose me because, yes, they were autistic. There's only so much that you can teach someone who's neurotypical about autism. But on top of all of that, how did I get away with it for so long? Pretty easy, just by masking. And what has this got to do with childhood trauma? Because if you think about it, people who've been through childhood trauma, it's not just masking, it's also known as people pleasing. So it's not really strange to suggest that people who've been through childhood trauma would become people pleasers. In fact, not only is this what the research about autism tells us, I'll tell you about my subjective experience with this. This was the most validating experience that I have had, and getting diagnosed didn't really validate me, and apparently other people say the same thing. So I had an experience where I was in an autism group back in Australia, which was only for late diagnosed adults. And there was about 15 people in there, and we all had a chance to speak one after the other. Now, I mentioned childhood trauma, and then someone else mentioned it, and I'm like, hang on a second, I'm hearing a lot of this. So I started writing it down, and I noticed that at the end of the call, the Zoom call, every single person was reporting childhood trauma. I'm like, well, that makes sense. The masking, people pleasing, those things end up being the way we hide who we are unknowingly, but was just out of fear, really. So I'll go through some of the things I've written down because I don't know them all off the top of my head. Introducing, if you're not familiar with the term stims or stimming, it's, little things we do that to calm our nervous system. You might, tap your foot up and down, or crack your knuckles, or do weird things like that. You would probably not do those things in front of people if people are going to, criticize you for it. So, then there's hiding reactions. This is a really big one because after you discover you're autistic, you'll slowly stop doing this. Anyway, it's things like sounds or loud noises, really disgusting smells that don't cause a reaction in other people. And we might feel like, well, I can't react because people will think I'm weird. The eye contact thing, you can even say it, the way I film videos is exactly how I talk to people. I start looking in the eye, I look away while I'm thinking, and then I look back again. That not only is it masking because I'm hiding the eye contact with the bits that I move when I look away, but that looking away part is also a part of autism as well. Body language, so being really conscious of your body language, because if you sit or put your feet in a certain way, or you stand in a certain way and people go, well, that's weird, well, you kind of stop doing it and you start to copy other people. Scripting conversations, whether it be a phone call or whether it be what do I say at a party? Or in my case, ringing up to order a freaking pizza. I couldn't do that until I was in my 30s. I absolutely hate doing it still to this day. Putting on an act, like in front of people, acting a certain way and doing things a certain way because you know that it's acceptable by others. This is a really big one that autistic people do. Studying social skills or psychology and, reading self-help books and stuff like that, just so to help us get through social situations. But this one's not one I'd say you shouldn't do. I think this is a great idea because, just to go off on a spider web for a minute, ADHD thing, sorry, but I'll just tell you that I learned this so well. I'm not an expert at it, but I got so much better at it than even neurotypical people that this was especially useful in situations with people that were really quiet and introverted. I'd be able to show interest in them, do sincere things to get them to talk to me, but without trying to make conversation, which is a freaking annoying. Here's a really big one, masking, not being yourself. You're not free to be yourself because if you decide to dance along to Praise You by Fatboy Slim and do the stupid dance that Spike does in the music video, if you know, if you're not free to do that, then you're masking. And pretty much the last one I've written down is pretending to be normal. It's just, we look around at the people who tell us we're weird and we look at the way we act and go, that must be normal, so I will do that. At the end of the day, it's just the majority of people. So that's it. That is essentially how me, and if you're, older, 30, 40, maybe older than that, and you're starting to wonder if you're autistic, quite likely, well, first of all, statistically, you're more likely to be a woman because women mask more heavily than men. But anyone who's been through childhood trauma starts to mask, which is also known as people pleasing. Anyway, hope that helps. If you have any questions about masking or how do you know if you're masking, there are tests for it. I'll put links, but I welcome any questions. Put them in the video below. Take care out there.